Hello everyone, this is Jimmy Cultist. Today we're doing something a bit different. We're starting a brand new series, hopefully. If it's received well, we'll do more of these. If not, well, I guess this is the only one. But we're going to try mythical creatures instead of the usual cryptid series, which we might discontinue. Who knows? Maybe if there's reignited interest, we'll go back to that. But in the meantime, we're going to be doing a goblin. We've received requests before in the course of our cryptid series, people asking us to do dragons and mythical creatures and things of that sort, so we're thinking of turning it into a separate series. Maybe people are more interested in that. We get pretty good views on all of our fantasy-related videos, like the Troll and the Knight, so maybe people will take well to this new series. I don't know. Now, going forward, if there's any area where these two things overlap, like say we have a cryptid that's sort of mythical or a mythical beast that's sort of cryptid, and we've already done them, we probably won't do them again. For instance, Kappa could be considered mythological, but also sort of a cryptid creature, considering people say they've seen it in recent years. So we won't be doing any redos on this one, just so you know. Also, moving forward, you should probably be warned that we're not going to be making any generic basic designs. We're going to do our own interpretations of these famous creatures. So if you're looking for D&D manual or World of Warcraft kind of designs, I'm afraid that's not what we do here. We just like to have fun and do our own thing, but also be faithful to the legends and whatnot. That being said, there's going to be certain things that, of course, you can't get away from, like dragons in general, you know, they're giant lizard-like creatures with wings. You're not going to really get away from that, so we're not going to make things too strange to where they're unrecognizable. Now, this time it was a bit different. Billy didn't actually come up with a design this time. I did it myself, scratched it out real quick on a piece of paper. It's not very pretty, though, so I don't think I'll be displaying it in the corner for reference. But we sort of prefer a more classic fairy tale look, rather than this sort of video gamey style that most modern media has adapted, you know. And we sort of harken back to things like Labyrinth and artwork by Brian Froud, that sort of thing. In general, there seems to be a kind of uniformity of design with goblins and different creatures in fantasy, which is something I don't really prefer. I always interpreted goblins as being, you know, each one is unique and special in its own way. One might look like, you know, your kind of standard pointy-eared sort of elfish creature, and another one looks like a pig, another one looks like some kind of weird lizard. You know, I kind of have that approach to the whole thing, and this one kind of looks like a goat. I was thinking of doing more goblins just for the sake of demonstrating my point, but that would take too much time, so we're just going to do one for this video. It will be remixable in case you just want to, you know, look at the craft and mess around with it, or even if you want to use it in your own little game. Maybe you have some kind of fairy tale game in mind, I don't know. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. It really helps us out. Now, I don't foresee this being very challenging because I imagine goblins as having pretty humanoid bodies, maybe a few unusual posture elements, like they have really hunched down backs or really thin limbs or something like that, but ultimately pretty humanoid except for the head, which is where you get the most design variation between forms. Something interesting to note about goblins and their origins in European folklore is that they aren't a particular creature, really. They're more of a general catch-all term for evil and mischievous spirits. But in modern culture, they sort of become more like orcs, where they're a very distinctive, you know, race of little creatures, and they don't really have all these magical powers and things that you see in the older stories. They're kind of a bit like evil versions of fairies. Of course, even fairies have their bad days in those old folklore tales. They could be pretty bad, too. Now, I think this modern perspective on goblins was largely informed by the works of Tolkien. I think The Lord of the Rings kind of had these very specific rules for things like elves and dwarves and creatures of that sort, and it kind of gave people this logical perspective on how fantasy should work, and it kind of carried over to things like D&D and hobbies of that sort, and since then we have a very defined idea of what a goblin is. I don't really have a problem with this. I think it's all fine. Although I don't think we get a lot of that old perspective anymore, that kind of more primal depiction of a goblin, you know, something a little bit more nebulous and interesting. I figure covering all these fantasy creatures might give us some more, you know, insight into clothing and objects of different sorts, you know. Might be informative in that regard, because usually we do more feral stuff, because cryptids mostly just run around buck naked. Now we're gonna go with kind of a dirty green color, I think. Sort of maybe a little bit of grayness to it. I think most people can agree that goblins are that color, something like that, sort of a vomit color, don't know what to call it. I think no matter how creative you might be with a goblin's design, you probably can't see them as pink with polka dots. Well, there we have it. Looks like a grizzled old soul. No doubt he's been playing much mischief, stealing babies from cradles and whatnot. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe or ring the notification bell so you never miss a video. And of course, leave requests in the comments if you're interested in giving us ideas for the next video. And in the meantime, if you wish to support us, there's a link in the description to our art pal and our coffee. But for now, goodbye.